Okay, we are live. It's that time again for Geekspeak, and today we are gonna be talking about long form content, why it still matters, and why it's.
Woohoo!
I'd even say it's probably more important than ever. I'm just gonna go out there and say that in this time where we have AI and short form content is reigning supreme, I still find that long form content is still super valuable, and we're gonna get into what goes into making long form content, why it's not as intimidating. I wanted to touch on that, and also how we got while we were doing some research that give you some inspiration for ideas on what to do with your long form content. So we're gonna
Yeah.
get into that. My name is Phelan with Seymour Digital Media.
And I'm Rena from Little Works Indie Media. And
Awesome.
I wanted to just, before we just jump into the how, let's talk about the why.
Yeah.
So, can you just briefly discuss why long form content ranks better? I've got a couple
Yeah.
of ideas, but I think you're the expert in this one.
Well, I know that. So there's the classic, the skyscraper method, which is one that we talked about when we were getting ready for this, which is it was first pioneered really by Backlinko, who since he's part of SEMrush now. But basically, what he did is he was pioneering the idea of like you don't just make, if someone wrote 4,000 words on why backlinks matter, you're gonna write
Hmm.
10,000 words on it, and you're gonna have so many more extra parts to it, and you're gonna skyscraper this so it's gonna be even higher up than any other piece of content, and you're gonna have a
Okay,
structure.
can you just, I think that skyscraper, that word needs to sort of be defined. You're talking about how the blog performs, not the size of the blog, or are you talking about the size of the blog is as
Size
tall as a sky?
size
Okay,
of the blog is it's meant to be
okay,
like it soars even higher than what everyone else is doing, and
right,
so and the idea is that it's like it's not you're towering over everyone else that would be writing about the
right.
subject, and you're covering every single aspect of it, um, and so it the thing is he was in a highly competitive field of on page SEO, right? Like every other person that's
Mhm,
out there trying to fight it, and he managed to make it to the top. So obviously what he was saying mattered. I mean, it's a few years old at this point, but I still think
mhm.
I'd still say that in an era where a lot of tools like AI tools are scraping content across the web, if you can have some sort of definitive article on a subject matter that has people wanting to link
Mhm.
back to it, I still think that that's going to be super relevant for your
Yeah,
content.
and let's talk about that just a little bit, the what instead of, and then we'll get into the how, because the how's the most fun. We've got a lot of ideas for the how, but the what,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's like research material. It's like how-to documents. It's like when you say the expert in that topic, we want to
Yep.
like create all the stuff that you need. So scraping the web is not really going to be ideal. It's about creating value, and much of that value comes from your own experience, your own understanding of the material, and how you organize it either in your daily life when you work with your clients, because that's why you're writing about this expert material, is to entice more clients and help them. So um so I guess what I'm getting at is the what. The what is like, we think about it, it's going to be a lot different than how we think about the what is a smaller blog post, because a smaller blog post tends to be easier to digest. It seems to be, you're not giving a deep dive as much as AI likes to say that everything's a deep dive, but
Mm-hmm.
your blog posts generally aren't a deep dive. This is going to be the deep dive of your blog posts, these long posts.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to realize, is that you need to distinguish it from your other posts so that it's specific in its function. And I like to think about, how is this going to function? So that's why we usually generally say how to, not the short ones, and not the ones with little text and lots of screen caps. Those aren't going
Mm-hmm.
to really cut it. You need a lot of information. So you could pull that from a variety of sources, in terms of like thinking about it like, this is going to be text information, this is going to be video information, here are a bunch of downloads, And we'll talk
Hmm.
about downloads in the how, because the how is my favorite part. Well, maybe this is actually just a really good segue. The what is actually a smaller section, and then it's just segues into the, now that we know what the what should be, the how do we provide and organize that information? Because this is the hardest part for people to grasp.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, you had an example the other day when we were talking, and you showed it to me, um, about how to organize, because a blog is essentially a long scrolling space.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have the best of your information or something that somebody wants, like right nested in the middle of that. I mean, you might want that, but you don't want to have them hunt also. So you were suggesting some kind of like anchor outline at the top, right? Is that what you were?
Yeah, so they're called jump
Mhm.
links, and so they're set
Jump
up as
links.
having like you set up an ID for a certain section. So it'll be
Hmm.
so what happens at the very top, you're gonna have like a table of contents, and that's gonna like outline. And it really suggests if you are gonna start this, that's a really good place to start. Also, I would say just circling back for
Hang
one
on,
sec.
just so that we can finish that thought. The outline is actually hyperlinked to parts of
Uh,
the
yeah, to
blog post
sections, but
longer
lower
down.
down. So
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
you use them as IDs, and then they jump down. So you click on it, and
yeah,
then it'll jump down to that section. So you can have a nice outline.
yeah.
And so I would say that yeah, that's definitely one way to. It's a really good place to start. It's kind of like, what am I going to talk about this big subject? And rather than being super intimidated by having to write 10,000 words, what you do is you start off with
Yeah,
just a table of contents of like, what are the topics
yeah,
underneath of that I actually are going to expound upon and
yeah. It's like
build
going
out.
back to writing grade 12 essays.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, don't just jump in right to the text, but also start with like, hey, here's the points I want to hit. And then from there, it's easy to fill in, right? Because rather than you're looking at 10,000 words you're going to write, you're looking at five sections of 2,000 words, for example. So that's
Mhm.
a little less intimidating of kind of like breaking it out. Because even within
And
that, you're probably going to have further subsections. Sorry, go ahead.
mhm, that's right. And so sections and subsections. So I just want to point out that this is a really great way to actually utilize those H3 and H4 tags that you don't often use.
Hmm.
So your subsections would be H2 tags, and then your hierarchy would work H3, H4, and even H5 if you need it. So that's usually what you're doing. If you're doing shorter blogs, then you shouldn't be using your H3 or H4 tags necessarily. Like, probably
Yeah,
not likely.
yeah. You wouldn't like you said, if you're doing 10,000 words, then that's where your semantic HTML,
Hmm.
which is the technical term for it, that Google likes,
Hmm.
is really comes into effect. Where you've got not only like your
Hmm.
big like headline, but you also got like subsections and subsections, and it's all nicely categorized so that it's easy for someone to come along and really be able to find what they need out of all these subsections and get exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah. So when we think about those subsections, there's a lot of different kinds of. I mean, you sat down. You said just a few minutes, sit down and write your blog, but it doesn't all have to be text. You could
Hmm.
actually use video as long as you're paraphrasing or providing enough text to actually describe that video, the content within that video, because of course Google can't understand your video content. And there was this neat little one that we saw. And so the types of content is going to be text, a lot of text, because you still need those 10,000 words no matter if you're using video and other sources. So
Hmm.
video, audio files can work really nicely too. I have an example of that I want to talk about in a few minutes. Obviously photos to break up the text so that people can actually still scan and skim and move down and see things quickly. And then, of course, you have your headings and your subheadings in your spaces, but you can also provide illustrations like lots of what was that word, infographic. That's where
Yep.
we can put infographics. You can even do really neat little like you see this a lot on web pages more, but you can break that information into tab sections or little animations or anything like that. Like you can get pretty creative in these blog posts, so they're
Yep.
not going to be there. They could be quite substantial, and we saw a few that were actually probably had some custom coding going on there. So they're not necessarily really easy, but they could be easy. They could also be super complex in how they organize information. They could use data representation. So that's like data visualization, I mean. So
Mm-hmm.
if you had like data maps of, if you wanted to show different types of like people over the age of 50 all over the lower mainland for whatever reason, if that's a way to get your, if you have stats like that, you can create little digital visualization maps and embed those into your blog post to help really get the ideas across, because like we talk about trillions of dollars, but that is actually quite meaningless and hard to imagine for most of us. So you
Mm-hmm.
might want to like create a visual representation of what that actually looks like. So all those types of things can go in. So I hit audio, video, photo, text. What other kinds of things can we put in, Phelan? Have I missed any?
Uh,
Oh, downloadables.
Downloadables. So yeah, you can get someone to like, hey, read our full report on such and such
Yes.
topic, and then they give you your email, and that's a good
Or
way to collect emails.
true. And then there's also like little mini reports. So each section could have its own report that they need to download. If they're only interested in one of those sections, that could be really good. If they want all of them, that's also great. And then downloadables, like I did a very long blog on how to create a content calendar after our last one. I think you and I were on the content calendar
Yeah,
episode, weren't
I
you,
think
Phelan?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, so I not only did I have the video of us on this cast, I also had a video of how to work with the content calendar that we create, and then I made a template that was downloadable for people, and then they could actually, So then we did a paraphrase of the episode, and then we also did text to talk about how to work with our content calendar, and that became one long blog article. So, and there's so many examples. We're going to put some examples up in the comments because some of them are really cool. Like
Hmm.
Phelan, you are the one that found this for me, and I'm so excited now. The one thing that one that I liked was it had sections of information, and I think it had some images going all the way down, and then on the side in a separate column it had like periodically down the way it had these little audio clips that you could do it. So the way that, and the reason why we have all this stuff is because in engagement. So Google changed from Google Universal to the G4 version. It starts to go from like how much time people spend on a page to how a person engages on the page. And they give a metric on that. And I never really sort of clued in until we had this conversation on Tuesday that all of those things, when people are downloading and when people are hitting play on the audios and the videos and all that stuff, that and how they scroll like lengths down the page, those
Hmm.
are all your engagement
Yeah.
indicators or triggers for Google to rank that. So this is one of the reasons why I think it's super important that long form content, or at least having longer blogs that you can put all the stuff in, engagement is super important. So this is one way
Yeah.
to keep someone engaged on your page. And
Yeah. I would also
okay.
say off of that as well that one thing that kind of ties what you're talking about earlier, you don't need to also reinvent the wheel for how to get some
Mhm.
stuff embedded. So one thing to look at is like Google's Looker Studio. You can embed that on a website. And so with that, you can also have your own data source be connected, and then people could interact with it on a web page as well. So
Oh, interesting. I never thought of that. So the Looker Studio is a data visualization from Google Analytics.
well, from
Or
Google's
that uses
marketing.
Google Analytics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can, but you could also connect your own Google Sheet or any sort of
Right.
CSV. So you
Yeah.
like technically you could make anything into a data source, and then they also have
Yeah.
stuff of like geolocation. So you could actually still have like a
Right.
map of the
Yes.
world and still have like
Yeah.
visualizations that go off with that. You'd have to
Yeah.
label it, of course, but it means that you don't have to like invent data visualization. You just need to have your own data
Yeah.
source that's regulated that it can
Data
represent.
source. Yeah. Data sources. And then there are lots of apps that help you actually visualize that data. So you can look
Yeah.
for those too. Those are fun. Um, right. And then so I guess oh, I had a thought and then I forgot it. I hate it when I do that. Oh yes. So the connection between, oh yes, I remember. So we want to know how people are engaging. So
Yeah.
Google gives us this metric on Google Analytics that gives you, four or whatever for engagement. But that doesn't really tell us anything except for people are engaging. But maybe we want to know what kind of content they're engaging with most. So Microsoft Clarity is amazing for that. Attach that
Hmm.
to your website, and then you can see I'm producing all of these little audio clips, and nobody is using them. So am I going to spend my time and money producing more audio clips for future blog posts? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe the gold is in the infographic, or the gold is in the data visualization, or the gold is in the downloadable that people are finding super valuable. And those and so that keeps you on track, so you're not guessing. So you can guess for the first one, always guess.
Hmm.
Take your best shot. I think people like video, and I think people like audio, and I think some people like useful tools that are downloadable that they can take with them, so checklists or calendars or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then if they have, and then you test it, and then you test it, and then the next one has more of that type of content in it, and maybe you try something else new that you've seen on someone else's blog or web page, because you can take your ideas from web pages, not just blog posts. So testing and tweaking continually is what's going to get you going, and it's super important to make sure that you're taking the breath and looking at that data, and get off the content production wheel
Hmm.
if you're not looking at the results. So my thing is that if you're feeling too pressured to create more content for your, even, and this goes for social or whatever, if you're feeling too pressured to create content all the time, so much so that you're not spending any time reviewing how that content performs, then you're missing the boat. So change your cadence. Go from creating, one blog a week to one blog every 2 weeks, and spend some time on that second week looking at the results and planning for your next one, rather than rushing out content. Because I think that especially with AI, there's just like the rat race for content is huge. Like it's
Yeah.
never ending. And you get all these people telling you need to do like 5 to 9 reels every single day and all this stuff. And it's just like, whoa, Nelly, let's just do what's absolutely necessary to get the best results. And no more than that. Unless you're an influencer, that's completely different. Or you're in the game of branding, not lead generation. So that's also a different thing. If you're not doing lead generation, like if you're the Gap, then that's totally fair. You can create as much content as you like. But if you're doing lead generation, you need to figure out if your lead generation strategies are actually working. And long form blogging is one good way. It's one tool in your toolkit to do lead generation. That's the whole point. So you're also probably going to want multiple calls to action, or repeating the same call to action throughout the blog post. You see that every now and again. If you're interested in this piece, get on a training call with us, or a discovery call to see how we can do this for you, or something like that. Would you agree with that in terms of the long content?
Yeah.
Because that's what I.
One thing that's come up that I've kind of come around to when we're talking about calls to action is I used to
Mhm.
be like only have one call to action, but now I'm kind
Yeah.
of the mind of having two different modes of call to action. There's one I
Okay.
call like the big step, and then one that's the little
Yeah.
step. So the little
Yeah.
step is like, hey, give us your email and we'll send you this PDF that breaks down the it's a
Mhm.
workbook,
Mhm.
right? So it's a very
Yeah.
small ask from the person
Mhm.
in order to get them to take that step. And then the bigger one is like book a call with us, right? Because not
Yes.
everyone is ready at that minute to book a call. But if you get them to make the small ask, then
Yeah.
you're getting them in the mix, and you're not going to catch every single
Yeah.
person, but at least it's an easier lift as well. And I
Yeah.
think that you need to be thinking about those as well, because not everyone
Yeah.
is immediately going to get on your website and be like, you know what, I need to book a call with this person right away. And that's just
Totally.
the brass
So
tacks.
yeah, so I think, Phelan, what you're getting at is if you're doing content that needs to appeal to different people in the buying cycle, like
Yeah.
top funnel and then low funnel, that's absolutely true. If you're at the point where you're doing different pieces of content that satisfy information needs for people that are at a specific part of your funnel, and you're going to use ads to get the right people to that right piece of funnel, then yeah, I would definitely just stick to one.
Hmm.
But yeah, if it's just a general blog post and you're using organic techniques, then I would probably add some kind of newsletter sign up too, because you want to get those top funnel people in your ecosystem so you can educate them so they finally feel comfortable or realize that they have a problem that they didn't know, or realize or know that they have a problem and realize that you're one of the solutions that can help them
Yeah.
get to what they need solved.
Exactly. I think that that's really important to kind of think of it as it hitting people at different stages of the funnel. I think that's
Yeah.
going to be super important, and recognizing that
Mhm.
it isn't just about book a call. Like, it's not about that bottom of the funnel. It may take people another minute to get be aware of
Mhm.
you, and so that's definitely important.
Yeah.
I'd also say, just circling back just a little bit, one other
Mhm.
way to kind of think of how to get started is also look at those smaller blog posts that you do have that's existing, and seeing how can you
Yes.
make a larger piece that ties in
Yeah.
all these pieces. And so you're not like
Yeah.
having to like to do it completely whole cloth. Like, you're look at, is there a through line of a bigger topic
Yes.
that all of my blog posts all tie back to? Okay, now I can make a big long one and still connect to those ones as well, and so that
Yeah.
way you don't have to like
And so yeah,
go
this
ahead.
could be part of your, your ongoing SEO strategy. So when you do SEO strategy, you're always going back to old content and seeing how you can revamp, relaunch it, or remove it. Like those are the three options. So this is one definitely great way to revamp old content. Like you said, you can
Mm-hmm.
combine a bunch and then make sure that you're redistributing it. So update it, and you can even say, we've updated our blog post to contextualize it if somebody's read something about it before. You can do that in your distribution. So this is a great. I just love this new way because sometimes it's quite boring to relaunch old posts that are short.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that, and there's maybe nothing that you can add. So sometimes what I do is I'll take a short one, and then if I've got a new case study that actually utilized that technique, then I'll add the case study to it and relaunch it as a new thing, and then that gives Google more information and helps. But if you don't have a case study and you don't have anything new on the topic and it's still relevant material, then this is perfect. Combine it with a few other things and move it off, move it along, and see if that helps get it up the ranking. Um, yeah, so testing and tweaking again, testing
Yeah.
and tweaking. And lots of tweaking. Like blog articles should never really sit for years and years on your website and do nothing for you. Like that's just a waste of it's a
Yeah.
waste of space
uh,
and energy. I think of it as an environmental catastrophe. It's like, don't do that.
yeah, and I always think of like the prime example of what you're talking about to my mind is WordStream, who's a they're a
Oh yeah.
company that does PPC, and they do, but their blog posts, like they have ones like, because they still leave the date in the
Yes.
URL, so you can actually see that's like, this
Yeah.
blog post was originally written in 2013 and they've updated it for 2025, and so they
Yeah.
keep all their stuff up to date.
And I like it when people put the editor's brackets at the top and say updated with the
Yeah.
new date on it rather than changing the publication date. I think that's really quite interesting. And because some things you have to update all the time, like especially when on our blog posts, we do a lot of stuff on social media. Every time the platform changes, every time the algorithm changes, we
Yeah.
got to go back and make sure, is this still relevant? Does this still work? Are we just frustrating people? I've got one little video online that does very well about how to make a retweet of a video so that you don't actually take the person's comment, you just take the video. You can't do that anymore, and it drives me mental because it gets so much traffic for us, but it actually it's a technique that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I can update, so I actually have to take it off of my website, so that's
Yeah.
the thing about tech.
Yeah, yeah, because even not only just like things don't, you can't physically do stuff the same way, but also like the platform just looks different, right? Like every few
Yes.
years they'll update the look of it, and
Yeah, the
so
tools are in a different spot.
yeah, all the menus are different. All like the how
Yeah.
you actually get to the same spot. You may even be able to get to the same spot, but it's just a
Mhm.
different way now, and so you actually have to go in and reshoot the screenshots or reshoot the video of how
Yeah.
you do it.
And it's actually super fun as a business owner. It's super fun to go back and see how much you've changed and grown, and your company has changed and grown, and your team has changed and grown. And you can do some fun things, like even just doing comparison blog posts. Like, here's an old blog post, and here's where it's completely wrong now. And you could actually, frame it like that. That's might even be more fun to
Yeah,
do than simply update.
yeah, exactly. And so there's definitely a lot of good opportunities. Again, we're strong proponents of like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like this isn't
No.
don't get overwhelmed and intimidated by it. It's just think of
Mhm.
what you already have existing and try to find some new way to find it cohesive. I also wanted to
Yeah.
touch on that goes with that is also original research is not as difficult as most people put it out. So an
No.
example that I always think about was there was a guy doing affiliate blog articles for RVs. And so he wound
Mhm.
up doing like, here's a price listing for this type of product across Washington State where the guy was located. And what he did is
Oh, right on.
he just called up dealerships and were like, hey, what are you selling this for? And then they told him,
Right.
and he just aggregated all this data, right?
Yeah, that's great.
It's a
I love
first
it.
person. Yeah, it's still like it
First
does the
person
job.
research.
Yeah, and no one can take that away because he did the legwork
Yeah,
that no one else did. So that makes it, in a sense of, being able to find that
higher
original
value.
data and being able to
Yeah,
tie
it's
it all together and being able to like show people. And it's not as like, I think people get overwhelmed by it and think blow it
mhm.
out of proportion when it's like really it's not the most revolutionary thing.
Yeah. Now you've given me a really great idea because I need to change my scheduling app. I want to actually do that. So I think what I'm going to do is do the research, take the research, create a thing and a
Yeah.
conclusion of to where I landed and why I chose what I did. So you can, yeah. So that's actually really quite interesting. And you can also do things like when you survey your clients, because hopefully you are
Hmm.
surveying your clients. I'd like to say that I am, but I haven't in a long time actually. But survey your clients. You can add a question or two that you could turn into a blog article about that'll help you write a long form blog article.
Or
Um,
even
yep.
one that similar to I should be doing, but we haven't done yet, is survey potential people in the industry. So it's a
Hmm.
really good sales tactic of not to
Oh, that
get
is
people's
good.
hackles up. Is like you're like I'm not selling anything. Actually, I'm
Oh,
just
that's really
doing
good.
a survey. Hey, massage schools across Canada. This is
Yep.
just a random, but it's like, hey, how are you doing your marketing? So you're not getting the person. What you're doing is you're just asking them like, hey, how are you doing your marketing? And it's mostly in
Hmm.
the sense of I'm going to just publish this. I'll send you a link with that. I've aggregated. I called 100 massage schools across North America, and this is what they said they're
Yeah.
spending their money on, and here's what they actually think is getting them the most money. So that way, you're doing original research. You're getting people to think about it, and you're not. And you're also people. If you ask them questions about their business, they're more likely to answer. Right? If you're not
That's
like,
true.
and you're just like you're not making a sales pitch, all you're doing is just asking people
Hmm.
questions about where are they spending their money on marketing wise and how are they getting
Hmm.
their word out there. And that's a I find it, to my mind, I think that makes a lot of sense for ways that we can get in front of people and not be, like you're not trying to sell them on a thing. Really all you're
Yeah.
doing is getting original research, and you might get like one or two people that are like, hey, I'd like to talk to you more about this, but
And
the
you can even, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
You can even structure it like the way that some of those, I don't know if you're familiar, but I mean, I'm sure you've heard of this, but those self published books where every chapter is written by a person and there's sort of like a theme
Mm,
for the book, and every business owner is asked to write a chapter and they're asked a question or to write about this topic, and
yeah.
then they publish the book. It could be something as simple as that. I actually was asked what did I see the future of marketing to be in the next five years, and then that book got published. But you could do a smaller version of something like that with your um, colleagues or your clients or whatever it is, and then just create that long form content and do. And that's also, that can be research, that can be just different parts of the same topic,
Yeah. I even
chapters.
have, we had a client who publishes yearly a book about all the businesses in the small town that she lives in. And then
Oh,
she
that's
publishes
great.
that and then sends it. And then most people have like a stack of it. And so what she does is aggregates emails off of it. Why
Yeah.
it's not, is it the cheapest idea? No.
No.
Uh, it's a
No.
lot of work, but it also gets her name out there. And she's
Yeah.
in real estate.
So
And so basically, when you're in real estate, your name being out there is the biggest thing you can do. So it made a lot
yeah,
of sense from her
yeah.
perspective. But it also gives us ideas of like long form content, also doesn't even necessarily need to be digital. It can still be
No.
like analog as well. That, you know,
Yeah.
you touched on with self published books, all that stuff as well. So I think that there's lots of different ways to look at this. And yes, it's going to cost, you're going to have to work for a little bit for it, but you know, there's nothing
Well,
like it.
I think we covered some really easy ways, like going back and finding the content that you've already got, right? All
Yeah.
of the stuff. And then you've got all the way to um, firsthand research and creating that data so that you can actually present like almost like reports really on your blog.
Yeah.
You and then or also you can utilize hire your designer to do some infographics for you where that you can use to get
Hmm.
the information out. And so there's quite a variety there, and I think that you shouldn't be too like overwhelmed. And if you have some questions, you can always, I don't think we ever say this on Geekspeak, but you can always put them on the in the comment section. But you can also always DM us and we will answer, or email us and we will answer, won't we,
Yes.
Phelan?
As
Yeah.
the best of our abilities. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And so yeah, so I actually we're going to have some really exciting examples in the comments section coming up. So make sure you come back and click on those because they really got me jazzed. Like I am
Hmm.
jazzed for getting my own stuff up and organized for long form content moving forward. And it's not as boring as having to always do how to manuals. It's
Yeah.
much more interesting than that. So thank you so much for coming. Am I going to do the wrap out? I just started.
Sure. Yeah. It's just
um,
bring it on
yeah,
home.
thanks so much for coming. We do this every Thursday. If you want to join us in our community, we are in the Business Marketing Mixer on it's a Facebook group.
Hmm.
But you can also just wherever you found us today, you can come back next Thursday and find us again. We'll be live streaming. Do we know what the topic is for next week, Phelan? Oh, I've
Yes.
got it.
Okay.
Um, so
So
next week is
it's,
going to be, oh yes, this month in the
yeah.
world of marketing. So
Yeah.
it'll be all of us, Pip, Phelan, Greg, and myself, and we'll be going over what's happening in marketing. So please join us then. And until then, have a good week.
Yeah. See you till then.